I don't know how else to start this but with the truth. I shouldn't have been there that night. It was supposed to be simple. My cousin called, said the kitchen cabinet door had come loose, and could I drop by after class to fix it? He'd be working late, but his wife would let me in. That was it. Just a small favor. Nothing complicated. Nothing dangerous. But when she opened the door, I swear the air shifted. She stood there, bare feet on the wooden floor, hair pulled back too quickly like she hadn't bothered with a mirror, and a soft tiredness around her eyes that made her look more real than anyone else I knew. Late 40s maybe, but alive in a way that unsettled me. "Come in," she said, almost absently, stepping aside. Her voice was low, carrying that kind of warmth that sneaks under your skin before you realize it. I carried my toolbox in, telling myself to focus. Just fix the hinge, say thank you, and leave. But she lingered near the counter, leaning against it, arms crossed. I felt her watching me as I crouched down to check the cabinet. Every time I reached for a screw or shifted position, I caught her in the corner of my eye. Still, silent, curious. "You're good with your hands," she said suddenly. I laughed. Too quick, almost dropping the screwdriver. "It's just a hinge." She tilted her head. "Not everyone knows how to do even that." The silence after that felt heavier. I focused harder on the hinge than I needed to, aware of her presence behind me, the faint smell of her perfume mixing with the scent of coffee gone cold on the counter. When I finished, I stood, brushing dust from my jeans. "Should be fine now." She stepped closer, testing the cabinet door with her hand, her arm brushing mine as she opened and closed it. Just a small contact, but my pulse jumped like I'd been caught doing something I shouldn't. "Thank you," she said softly, still close. I nodded, forcing my voice steady. "Anytime. I should have left then. I knew it." But she lingered, and so did I. "Do you want some coffee?" she asked, already reaching for a mug without waiting for me to answer. "It's late, but I made too much." I should have said no. Instead, I sat at the small kitchen table, listening to the clink of porcelain as she poured. She brought the cup over, set it in front of me, then sat across, folding her hands around her own mug. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The clock on the wall ticked too loudly. I sipped the coffee, bitter and warm, and when I looked up, her eyes were already on me. "You're quieter than your cousin," she said. "Maybe that's a good thing," I muttered before I could stop myself. Her lips curved, half amusement, half something else. She didn't reply. Instead, she leaned back, studying me like she was trying to decide if I was safe, or dangerous, or both. The air between us stretched thin. I shifted in my seat, clearing my throat. "I should probably—" Her hand touched mine across the table, light, just a graze of fingertips. My words collapsed, and then she said it. Low, steady, each syllable deliberate. "Nobody has to know about tonight." The clock ticked once, twice. My chest tightened, as if the room itself had stopped breathing. I didn't answer, couldn't. All I did was stare at her, her hand still barely on mine, everything in me caught between the door behind me and the weight of what she'd just offered. I should have pulled my hand back. That would have been the right thing to do. Instead, I just sat there, heat rising in my chest, her words hanging between us like a dare neither of us wanted to take back. Nobody has to know. It wasn't only what she said, it was how. Calm, certain, as if she had already thought about it long before tonight. And that's what made it dangerous. She was my cousin's wife. The woman who, at family dinners, smiled across the table while passing the salad bowl. The woman who asked me about college applications when I was still in high school, who knew the safe version of me, the boy with polite answers. Now I was 22, sitting in her kitchen, her hand grazing mine, and suddenly none of those safe lines felt real anymore. I should probably go," I whispered, though my voice had no conviction. Her eyes softened, not surprised. "You always run when things get too close?" That cut deeper than I expected. I looked at her, really looked at her. The faint lines near her mouth, the way her thumb absently traced the rim of her mug, her shoulders tense like she carried weight nobody else ever saw. Something flickered in me then. Curiosity, maybe, or the ache of recognizing loneliness in someone who always pretended she wasn't. "What about you?" I asked, my words sharper than I meant. Why even say something like that? She leaned back, gaze lowering to the table. Because sometimes it feels like I don't exist. Not as a woman, anyway. Just as someone's wife. Someone's hostess. Someone's obligation. Her honesty caught me off guard. The way she said it, without bitterness, almost like she'd practiced admitting it to herself but never dared say it aloud. I wanted to answer, to tell her I saw her, but the words froze in my throat. Instead, my thoughts scrambled. The way her hair had loosened from the clip, the curve of her wrist as she held the mug, the restless movement of her fingers when silence grew too heavy. Dangerous details. The kind you notice when you're already too far in. "You don't have to explain," I murmured. Her eyes lifted to mine, steady now, holding me in place. "And you don't have to leave." My chest tightened. The house felt too small, the kitchen too warm. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock, even the rain beginning to tap softly against the window. Each sound seemed to trap me here, like the night itself had conspired against reason. I swallowed hard. If I stay, it changes things. Her hand slid across the table again, slower this time, deliberate. Her fingertips brushed my wrist, lingered, as if she wanted me to feel the choice she was offering. The words sat heavy in my mouth. Everything I wanted to confess, everything I knew I shouldn't. And still I didn't move. Her fingers brushed against my wrist again, this time longer, warmer. I could feel the faint pulse in her touch, steady but deliberate, and it sent a jolt through me I couldn't hide. I drew a sharp breath and leaned back slightly, but she only tilted her head, eyes searching mine. "You look like you're about to bolt," she said quietly, half amused, half wary. "Maybe I should," I muttered, though my body stayed rooted to the chair. "Then why don't you?" "Because I didn't want to." That was the truth, but saying it out loud would set fire to everything. Instead, I deflected, glancing toward the rain streaking down the window. "It's late. I have class in the morning." "You're making excuses." The way she said it, calm, direct, cut through me. I opened my mouth to argue, but the sound of her phone buzzing on the counter snapped both our heads around. The name flashing on the screen made my chest tighten. My cousin. Her hand froze halfway to the phone. The buzzing seemed to echo through the kitchen, filling every crack of silence. Finally, she swiped to silence it, setting it face down without answering. The quiet after felt heavier, charged. "You're not going to—" "No," she said firmly, interrupting before I could finish. Then softer, "Not right now." Couldn't look at her. My throat burned with things I couldn't say. He trusted me. She was his wife. I should have stood up, walked out, slammed the door behind me. Instead, my hand tightened on the coffee mug, knuckles whitening. "Doesn't this feel wrong?" I finally asked, my voice low, almost desperate. She leaned forward slightly, her eyes never leaving mine. "It feels like the first time I've been honest in years." My breath hitched. The honesty in her tone rattled me more than anything. She wasn't seducing me. She wasn't playing. She meant it, and I hated that I understood. "I can't." My voice cracked. I pressed a hand to the back of my neck, trying to ground myself. "I can't stop thinking about how this looks." Her lips curved into something between a smile and a sigh. "You think too much." Before I could respond, she stood, slowly circling the table. My chest tightened with every step she took. She stopped beside me, close enough that I could feel the faint warmth of her body. I stared at the floor, but when her hand rested lightly on my shoulder, I froze. "Look at me," she whispered. My eyes obeyed before my mind could resist. She was right there, close enough that I noticed the faint smudge of mascara beneath her lashes, the uneven rhythm of her breathing, the way her lips parted as if she were about to say something she couldn't take back. I swallowed, every nerve alive, the edge of the moment trembling between us. Her thumb grazed my collarbone. "If you stay a little longer," the words trailed off unfinished, but the weight of them filled the room, and I couldn't tell if I was already gone, or if I was about to take the step neither of us could undo. Her thumb lingered just below my collarbone, that fragile space where the smallest touch can undo you. I tried to steady my breathing, to force some distance into the air between us, but it was useless. Every second stretched tighter, pulling me closer to something I didn't know how to resist. "This isn't fair," I finally whispered. My voice cracked on the last word. "Fair?" she echoed, her hand dropping slowly, but she didn't step away. "Since when has my life ever been about fair?" The bitterness in her tone startled me. I turned to face her fully, and in that moment I saw it. The crack she kept hidden. Not desire, not seduction, but the raw loneliness she tried to cover with poise. It sat in her eyes like a bruise no one had bothered to notice. "You don't have to pretend with me," I said, softer than I intended. Her lips parted, trembling just slightly. "Don't you see? That's the problem. You see me, and no one else does." The admission hit me hard. All the excuses I'd been building, the reasons to leave, the lines I wasn't supposed to cross, they all faltered under the weight of that truth. I reached up before I could stop myself, brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek. My fingers hovered there too long, my heart slamming against my ribs. She didn't move, didn't flinch, just let me hold the moment between us. "You make it sound like that's a bad thing," I murmured. "It is," she whispered back. Her eyes glistened. "Because I can't stop thinking about it. About you. And I shouldn't." The silence that followed was sharp, cutting, as if the world itself held its breath. I wanted to answer, to tell her I'd been thinking the same thing, that I hadn't been able to shake the way her presence clung to me. But before I could, her phone buzzed again on the counter. Insistent this time, demanding. Both of us froze, the sound slicing through the fragile intimacy we'd built. She didn't look at it. Neither did I. Instead, she leaned closer, her face inches from mine, her breath warm against my cheek. "Say something," she urged, almost pleading. My throat closed. Every answer I could give felt impossible. Yes would ruin everything, no would ruin me. Finally, I forced words out, quiet and unsteady. "What happens if I do?" Her hand gripped the back of my chair, knuckles tight. For a heartbeat, she didn't answer. Then, barely above a whisper, "Then nothing will ever be the same." The weight of it hung between us, heavier than the rain pounding harder against the windows now. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. All I could do was stare at her, my pulse racing, the question she hadn't asked burning louder than anything else. And in that charged silence I realized we were already too far gone. The storm outside deepened, rattling the windows, thunder rolling so close it made the floor tremble. She hadn't moved away, neither had I. The only thing between us was the buzzing silence and the unspoken words pressing at our lips. And then her phone lit up again, buzzing across the counter. This time she didn't silence it. She picked it up, stared at the screen, her face hardening. I caught a glimpse of the name. Not my cousin. Someone else. "Who is it?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her thumb hovered above the screen, her jaw tightening. She ended the call without answering. When she set the phone down, her voice was low, clipped. "It doesn't matter." "Yes, it does." Her eyes flicked up to mine, angry, raw. "It's him." I frowned. "Him?" She exhaled sharply, pacing once before stopping with her hands braced on the counter. "Before your cousin. There was someone else. Someone I thought I'd marry. He left. No explanation. Just gone. Her throat bobbed. And now he calls whenever he wants, as if I'm still waiting. The room tilted, her words shifting the ground beneath us. She wasn't just lonely. She was haunted. I stood slowly, my chair scraping the floor. And you still pick up? Her laugh was brittle, bitter. Sometimes. Not because I want him, but because I need to hear that I mattered once. That I wasn't invisible. The confession gutted me more than jealousy ever could. It wasn't about him. It was about her. The woman standing in front of me, clawing for proof she existed beyond the labels she'd been given. I stepped closer before I could think better of it. You don't need him for that. Her shoulders stiffened. And what about you? You'll leave eventually too. You're young. You have your whole life in front of you. What am I? Just a story you'll look back on. The words hit hard because, for a second, I didn't know if she was right. But then I saw her eyes, shining, wet, terrified of the answer she'd already decided for herself. I reached for her hand, holding it firm when she tried to pull back. You're not a story. Not to me. Her breath caught, and for the first time tonight, she looked scared. Not of me, not of the storm, but of what I might mean. Thunder cracked overhead, shaking the house. The lights flickered, then went out, plunging us into darkness. Only the glow of her phone lit the kitchen faintly, casting her face in shadows. We stood frozen, our hands still joined, the storm pressing in from every side. Her lips parted, trembling. What if I believe you? The question hung there, dangerous and fragile, more terrifying than any confession. And in the dark, with her hand tight in mine, I realized she wasn't asking if we would cross the line. She was asking if we'd survive it once we did. The kitchen was still dark, save for the weak glow of her phone. Our hands were still joined, the storm pressing hard against the windows like it was trying to get inside. Her question, what if I believe you, hung between us like a blade, sharp and unavoidable. I squeezed her hand, not sure if it was reassurance or desperation. Then it means I can't lie anymore. Her eyes searched mine in the faint light. And what's the truth? The words stuck in my throat. All the reasons I shouldn't say it screamed louder than the thunder. But my chest ached with the weight of silence. Finally, it broke out of me, raw, unpolished. That I want you, not because you're lonely, not because I'm young and stupid, but because every second near you feels like the only place I actually exist. Her breath hitched, sharp and uneven. She let go of my hand, but only to press her palm flat against my chest, right over my heartbeat. Don't, she whispered. Don't say that unless you mean it. I covered her hand with mine, holding it there. I've been trying not to mean it, and I can't anymore. Her eyes closed, her forehead leaning into mine, our breaths mixing in the dark. For a heartbeat, we were suspended in something bigger than choice, an inevitability. And then she pulled back. No, she whispered again, firmer this time. She stepped away, shaking her head as if trying to wake herself. You don't understand. If this happens, if we let this happen, it doesn't just stay between us. It burns everything down. The words cut, but I couldn't argue with them. She was right, and yet the thought of walking away hollowed me out in a way I hadn't expected. So what, we just pretend none of this is real? I asked, my voice rough. Her hands trembled as she pushed her hair back, pacing. I don't know. God, I don't know. I stepped forward, catching her arm gently, forcing her to stop. She looked at me, eyes wet, jaw clenched, every part of her at war. Then let me decide for myself, I said. For a long, suffocating moment, she didn't move. The storm outside calmed slightly, rain softening against the glass, as if the world itself was waiting. And then, slowly, cautiously, she leaned into me, her head against my chest, her hands gripping the fabric of my shirt like she might drown if she let go. We didn't kiss. We didn't speak. We just stood there, breathing together, the silence fuller than words. Finally, she whispered, so faint I almost missed it, "If we do this, it has to mean something. It can't just be a mistake." I bent my head, my lips brushing her hair, my voice steady. "Then it won't be." Her grip on me tightened, and for the first time all night, the fear in her eyes gave way to something else. Not certainty, not safety, but the terrifying relief of surrender. The storm had passed by morning. The kitchen smelled faintly of rain seeping through the open window, and the world outside was washed clean, glistening. We hadn't kissed. Not yet. But in a way, the night had already broken something open in both of us. Something we couldn't put back. She sat at the table, hair loose now, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee mug, like she needed something steady to hold on to. I stood by the counter, watching her, searching for words that wouldn't sound hollow. Finally, she looked up at me. Her eyes were softer than they'd been all night, but no less afraid. "So, where does this leave us?" she asked. I swallowed hard. "That depends. Do you want it to end here?" Her silence was long, heavy. She glanced at the phone on the counter, still dark, then back at me. And for the first time, I saw the weight lift just slightly from her shoulders. "No," she said. "I don't." The admission wasn't dramatic. No raised voices, no sudden embrace. Just honesty, quiet and undeniable. Something inside me loosened. I walked closer, taking the chair across from her, leaning forward with my hands clasped. "Then we don't let it end. Not as a mistake, not as a secret we pretend never happened. If we choose this, we have to mean it." Her lips trembled at the corners. "You're too young to talk like that." I smiled faintly. "Maybe. Or maybe I just finally know what I want." She exhaled, long and shaky, then reached across the table, sliding her hand into mine. The gesture was small, but the meaning was everything. For a moment, neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. The night had already said enough. I realized then how much had changed in just a few hours. She wasn't invisible anymore, not to me, and I wasn't the polite, forgettable boy she'd once known. We were standing at the edge of something terrifying and real, and for once, neither of us wanted to step back. Would it be messy? Yes. Would people understand? Probably not. But what we had was no longer about them. It was ours. She squeezed my hand, her voice quiet but steady. "Then let's not waste it." The sun broke through the clouds outside, light spilling into the kitchen, and in that fragile glow, it felt like the beginning of something neither of us had dared imagine.